Principle 6, state what you want, define what is your holistic goal. Keeping the whole you've now defined in mind. Your decision makers will cover this process more deeply in our business planning class, now set about the process of creating a holistic goal. Describing the life they want to live, based on what they value most deeply. The three aspects of the holistic goal require your decision makers to 1. Describe the quality of life they want to live. 2. What they must create or produce to live that life, and 3. What must exist to sustain such a life far into the future. After you define the whole you are managing, and create your holistic goal, you are better prepared to create mission and vision statements, and identify necessary goals, objectives, strategies, or policies. These two initial steps help to ensure these missions, goals, objectives, strategies, and policies will move you in the direction you want and need to go. Then, to make sure your decision is socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable, the triple bottom line, you'll need to consider how your decision will impact the health of the ecosystem processes. You will also need to assess what tools you have available to manage your resources, within the context of that decision. Understanding nature and how it functions will help you in these steps before you test your decision and monitor it.
Principle 7, Bare ground is public enemy number 1. Now, armed with the knowledge of the first 4 principles, Principle 7 looks at the 4 fundamental processes at work in nature. Water cycle, mineral cycle, energy flow, and community dynamics. So you can begin to assess the health of the land. As you learn more about these 4 ecosystem processes, you will quickly discover that the earliest indicator of ecosystem health is soil cover. If there is 100% soil cover, made up of living and decaying plants, and a great diversity of species, you are likely looking at a healthy environment. But if some of the land is bare, and there are only 1 or 2 plant species, and little sign of other life, then you are looking at a poorly functioning environment. Many people will focus on a certain species of plant, or animal as an indicator of ecosystem health, wanting a noxious weed gone or a certain animal species to dominate the landscape. With holistic management, our first focus is to cover the soil because bare ground is public enemy number 1. Covered soil is the beginning of ecosystem health.
Principle 8, play with a full deck. Understand and use all the tools available to you. When people think of tools, they usually think of all the technologies available to us, such as farm equipment, irrigation, computers, and a host of others. But with holistic management, when we refer to tools, we mean the 8 categories of tools at our disposal. When managing the environment, you will use one of these tools to modify the ecosystem processes. Here are the tools for managing your resources: money and labor, human creativity, grazing, animal impact, fire, rest, living organisms, and technology. For many years, people have not recognized grazing and animal impact as tools that significantly influence the health of the ecosystem, or have only seen those tools in a negative light. Holistic management encourages you to consider all these tools as you work to move toward the life you want, as you have described it in your holistic goal.
Principle 9, test your decisions. To test your decisions, we will use the 7 testing questions. Details of how to do these tests will be covered in a following class. Cause and effect. Weak link test. Social, biological, and financial. Marginal reaction. Gross profit analysis. Energy and money. Sustainability. And lastly, society and culture. Once you have considered a decision or action thoroughly, and are ready to move forward with it, you ask 7 testing questions as they apply to the actions you're considering. These 7 testing questions, by relating the actions to the holistic goal, hone in on key concerns, and help ensure that your decision or action is simultaneously socially, environmentally, and financially sound, and that it moves you toward your holistic goal.
Principle 10, monitor for results and keeping on the right track with a functional feedback loop. After gathering all the necessary information, and considering a number of factors, then testing each action considered or taken towards your holistic goal, you can make an even better decision by creating some monitoring criteria that will give you the earliest indicator of your plan going off track. You do this by considering any unintended consequences that may arise from your actions, recognizing the complexity of all living systems. If you are deciding on which action to take on a piece of land, for example addressing a problem species, it is even more critical to develop monitoring criteria because of nature's complexity. In fact, some people suggest it is best to just assume you're wrong and monitor those criteria closely for the first signs that your plan is off track. If you find you're headed someplace you didn't want to go, you can either adjust your plan or replan entirely. You're not monitoring to see what happens. You are monitoring to make happen what you want to happen, to bring about changes in line with your holistic goal. In this regard, the word plan is actually a 24-letter word: plan, control, monitor, and replan, with positive action is needed and identified following each step.
We have now completed the 10 principles under holistic management. I know you're probably asking yourself, well, now I've got these 10 principles, how do I put them to use? The next series will talk about the practices that we will undergo to incorporate these principles into our daily farming life. So thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for holistic management, turning principles into practices.